I'm Leslie.
And I'm Lena Marie.
Welcome to Cha Chaz Kitchen. Today we're going to be doing a classic French macaron with a rich chocolate ganache.
That means chocolate filling.
This is the equipment that you're going to need for today's recipe. You will need a kitchen scale. It can be digital or analog, whatever you have at home and feel comfortable using. You will need a set of measuring spoons. You'll need a large piping bag and a small round tip. At least 2 sheet pans with parchment paper or Teflon to line them. You'll need a sieve or sifter, and I like to use a whisk to force the almond meal through the sifter. You'll need a spatula, several bowls, and your KitchenAid mixer with the whisk attachment. The first step is going to be to sift your powdered sugar and almond meal 3 times. I like to do it straight onto a piece of parchment paper because it's neater, but you can do it straight into a bowl.
So we're doing the second sifting now, and basically we're getting all the little particles that don't make it through. Whatever is left over, we just don't need it.
The larger particles would affect the texture of your macarons, and they have a bumpy texture instead of a nice smooth outer shell.
And you could also use your hands on this.
Be careful not to, when you use your hand, which is my preferred method, just don't force the particles through, since the sieve is made up of little wires. If you press hard enough, the pieces will pass through it, and we don't want that to happen.
Go left over. That's it.
So our next step is going to be separating our egg whites from our egg yolks. I have 3 bowls here, and this is the method that I use because it's absolutely vital that you don't get even a speck of yolks in your whites. If you do, your meringue will absolutely not work out. And so this method keeps you from wasting your egg whites. You don't want to crack 3 of your egg whites, and on your 4th one, you're going to end up getting a yolk in it, and now you're going to have to start all over again. So the first thing that I do is separate my whites into one bowl, and some people like to use their hands, other people like to use a shell like I do. And I'm going to put my yolk there, and then I'm going to move my egg white safely into another bowl before I crack my next egg. So next I'm going to take the 3.5 ounces of sugar that I measured, and we're going to take the vanilla paste and our teaspoon to measure that. So I've measured my egg whites to 4.2 ounces, and they're going to go into the bowl, and they're going to get whipped until just frothy. So before you start whipping your meringue, it's important that you have everything ready to go first. So that includes having your trays ready. I have these Teflon sheets on them, which I prefer because they give you the smoothest circle. However, you can use parchment, and if you're going to need some kind of a guide to help you with making your macarons even, then you're definitely going to need to use parchment because you're going to want to be able to see it through like this. So the final preparation that you want to make before starting your meringue is to have your piping bag ready to go. So I already have this tip-in that's a little less than 1/2 inch. And it's in my bag. I'm going to take a couple twists, and this is going to keep my filling from flowing through. And then I like to insert it into a pitcher or a cup, something of that nature, which will hold the bag open for me and make it easy to fill. The next step is to put your egg whites into your mixer. And we're going to go ahead and put that on about medium, because if you turn on high at this point, it'll splatter. Okay, so we're going to turn off the mixer and test it. And the way that I can tell that it's a good time to test is that when you first start, you'll notice that your mixture is being thrown around the outside of the bowl, but now it's starting to collect in the center of your whisk, and that's how we know it's a good time to test. And I can see that they're just short of stiff peaks. There's the tiniest bit of where the egg is flipping over, as opposed to standing straight up, and that's exactly what we're looking for.
So this is the last sift, the 3rd sift, and this is the last of the mix that we had already sifted twice. So get this together. I happen to like the old tried and true, the figure 8. See how it's blending, starting to incorporate it. You want to get everything all incorporated. At the same time, not folding like really fast so that you flatten all the beautiful work that Leslie did earlier about getting the eggs all nice and fluffy. See how I'm doing the figure 8 now. You want to get the bottom of it and it's not necessarily that you need to be so delicate with it. You just can't be so heavy-handed with it though. You just want to get it all mixed in, see? So it's all one color.
Okay, so Lena did a really great job of incorporating the almond and the egg whites together. This is called your macaronage. And it was really important what she showed you as far as cleaning your spatula frequently and cleaning the sides of your bowl. Because if you have any pieces of egg white that did not get mixed in, what you're going to do is have these little blowouts like this on your macarons. So now that we have it all combined, we're looking for that legendary ribbon stage. And I know a lot of people wonder, what is ribbon stage? But if you look at this, you can see that it's pouring off of my spatula in a ribbon. So once it gets to that point of pouring off my spatula in a ribbon, I want to see that if I hit it, it goes back into the mixture. So it needs a few more turns because it's not really reincorporating. So I'll just do a few more turns until I see it really start to go back together. And it's looking good. So at this point I can go ahead and put it into my bag. Remember, you want a large pastry bag because you never want to fill a bag past the halfway point. I know a lot of people think they can go all the way to the end and you can't. It'll come squeezing out the back. So it feels like there's a lot of wasted space, but it is necessary to keep your mixture from coming out the back of your bag. And if you have one of these large ones, it'll fit this entire batch into it. And we want to get everything because this last little bit represents a couple of macarons and you don't want to waste them. And again, we're going to clean this off. And you may notice that Lena and I like using our hands. Your hands are your best tool. So you bring the bag up. You can take a spatula or just your hand and you're going to force it to the end and then we'll be ready to pipe. So the next key step is your piping, and when you pipe macarons you do it slightly different than you do any other kind of piping. If you piped and done cakes before, you probably are used to holding your bag to the side like this, and you don't want to do that with macarons. You want to take your hand and put it up like this so that you can turn this straight up and down, and I'm going to pipe, stop completely, and do just like a little comma. It's like a backward C. I'm not swirling. I'm piping straight on, and then the C is really only to clean the batter off the tip. I'm also very close to my tray. You can see I'm right down in the mixture. I'm less than ½ inch from the tray. If I do it from way up, I'm going to build up the batter, and I'm going to have a big lumpy macaron that's more like a cream puff, which I don't want. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this tray, and you can see that I'm leaving plenty of space around the macarons. As I said, there's lots of templates out there. If you need to use a template, you'll just put it under your parchment paper and you can pipe that way. But eventually you'll get to the point where you're able to pipe without a template, and that is ideal because then you can use these Teflon sheets, which I have found to be the best. Now, as soon as you get one tray finished, you're going to set your bag aside, make sure your tip is up because it will flow, and you really need to pound these trays. And what this is going to do is get your air bubbles out. So the final step before going in the oven is to let your macarons dry completely. You will ask how long, and I really cannot answer that because it depends on the relative humidity in your kitchen. So on a warm, hot, dry day, they will dry very quickly, 10-15 minutes. But if it's humid, it's taken up to 45 minutes in my experience. So I do like to put a fan on just to speed up the process. So I have a pot simmering. I can see that there's some steam coming off of it. It doesn't need to be a hard boil. And this is what we're going to use to melt our chocolate. If you have a microwave, this can also be done in there. So I'm going to put a metal bowl over my simmering water. It's called a bain-marie. And I have 2 tablespoons of butter in here. And I'm going to add 8 ounces of chocolate chips, or it can be chocolate that you've chopped. And we want to get this to melt. I may have to put this back on the stove. Another way to get this to happen more quickly is I could have microwaved my cream. And again, all of this could be put into a microwave-safe bowl and heated at 1-minute increments until everything is melted together. Once it's all melted, I'll add a tablespoon of vanilla to it. So the first tray that we piped is pretty much ready to go, and how I can see that is that first of all, they're all very matte, as opposed to the second tray. You can still see a little bit of sheen, which means they're still wet. The other way that I can tell is I touch them and they're not sticky at all. If they feel dried and it's slightly hard skin on it, and that's how I know they're ready to go in the oven. So our chocolate is melted and I have it on some ice packs. You can also put it in a bowl that has some ice in it. And what that's doing is fermenting it back up. And I'm going to, at this point, add some vanilla, or you can add whatever flavor extract you would like to.
Could you put liquor in it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You put a tablespoon of any liqueur or alcohol you like. You can do a Frangelico, you can do cognac, you can do whiskey, you can do amaretto, whatever floats your boat.
Okay.
And just fold that in, and then it'll be ready to be put in the bag. You want to turn it back to me? I'll hold it.
That looks so good.
Yeah, you just want to look it out of the bowl.
Yeah.
Look it up like you know.
I want from me.
Okay. Well, we have enough. Now this is going to be enough filling for a lot of batches of macarons. So as long as you keep this in the refrigerator, keep it towards the back of your fridge. Don't let it sit out where it can get bacteria. It will last almost indefinitely because of the fat content in it. The final step is going to be to pipe it, and we're not going to go right to the edge of the macaron. We're going to stop just short of the edge and put our little top on.
They're so pretty.
So you can go ahead and make your shells well in advance. They freeze beautifully for months. I freeze them without filling them. I just put them in a little container with parchment between them, and then when I'm ready to serve them, pull them out and fill them. Once they're filled, you can eat them right away, but ultimately you're supposed to let them age a day or two, but nobody ever really wants to wait for that to happen. So.
I'm ready to
Enjoy.
have one. I'm ready to have one. Thank you for watching Cha Chaz Kitchen.
We'll see you in the next episode.